Philip. Let's get right to what Americans are talking about. Compassion, empathy, the moral high ground, all have fallen victim to Donald Trump's presidencies. But tonight, we're seeing a new low after the deaths of Hollywood icon Rob Reiner and his wife, producer Michelle Singer Reiner. The couple's son, Nick, is now in police custody, booked on suspicion of murder. Nick has spoken publicly about struggling with addiction, going to rehab, and experiencing homelessness. Tonight, as tributes and condolences continue to pour in for the Reiners, Trump used this moment to mock Reiner's death, saying he had Trump derangement syndrome. And when asked about his comments today, the president doubled down.
I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form.
It's not just Democrats, but some conservatives are criticizing Trump's response. Evangelical Russell Moore called the comments vile and disgusting. Marjorie Taylor Greene called the deaths a family tragedy and said it's not about politics. And here's what Senator John Kennedy said Trump should have done instead.
A wise man once said nothing. Why? Because he's a wise man. I think President Trump should have said nothing.
All right, we've got a great group that are here. Let's start with you. When it comes to that comment you just heard there, a wise man says nothing. It's that old adage, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Is that what should have happened with President Trump?
I was 9, 10, 11 years old where my grandfather, of whom I'm named after, Artie Aidala, taught me that lesson. I think I was being critical about someone or something, and he was like, hey, Artie, you know what? If you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything at all. And I believe that's what the president did when the vice president, Dick Cheney, died. I think he didn't really acknowledge it whatsoever, and I think that would have been the wise choice here. And even if he did, if he couldn't help himself but say something critical, you have to say, look, I never liked Rob Reiner. We never got along. He was so overly critical of me. But what happened to him and his family was so horrific and so tragic that the nation should pray for them.
Why doesn't the president rise to the occasion? When it comes to these sorts of things, we see kind of over and over again, his responses are often less than humane.
Well, I agree with Arthur. I think he should have said nothing. Look, I'm not surprised that Donald Trump didn't have anything nice to say about Mr. Reiner. Reiner was one of his most vocal critics and did for, basically a decade say he should be in prison, called him a fascist, et cetera, et cetera. But the correct answer here, and the advice I would have given him, is just put it in your pocket. You're allowed to harbor opinions and feelings about people, but in this particular case, someone was tragically murdered. But look, we just, as conservatives, we just rolled out of one of the most horrific things that have happened to our movement, which is the murder of Charlie Kirk. And I have been very critical of everybody who celebrated that murder, the thousands and thousands of liberals who celebrated that. They shouldn't have done that either. And so, in this particular case, putting it in your pocket would have been
And the thing is, Rob Reiner did not celebrate Charlie's murder.
Yeah.
He condemned it very vocally. So yes, on one hand, he's done more than just criticize Donald Trump. He's raised millions and millions and millions of dollars to make sure Trump didn't become president. However, when Charlie was executed, Rob Reiner came out forcefully and said, I don't care what anyone's politics is, this should
and I would suggest that the office of President of the United States comes with a higher bar and a certain duty. And if he can't exercise the duty, then just shut up. Keep your mouth shut and keep Rob Reiner's name out of your mouth, particularly today. Look, what happened to that family is really an unspeakable tragedy. It's so hard for me to wrap my arms around. And there are millions of American families who are dealing with children with mental illness and drug addiction. And as a family, my own family that has suffered from the consequences of drug addiction, I can tell you that the biggest fear of any parent, and they can be very good parents who don't give up on their child and who love that child, but can't save the child no matter how many times you send them to rehab, no matter how many times you send them, no matter what pills you're there, sometimes you just can't reach a kid. And the biggest terror of one of those parents is that that child will hurt themselves or hurt somebody else, much less somebody in the family. So what is happening to this American family is tragic. And for Donald Trump to use the occasion, not to rise to the occasion, but to lower himself to a level that I can't even imagine and attack Rob Reiner and say his death was caused by his criticism of Trump is disgusting and condemnable and unacceptable. And I am glad that both of you are saying that it was the wrong thing to do, because we cannot normalize this level of cruelty and stupidity
But
by Donald Trump.
but it is normalized, and I think that
No, it's not.
the maybe that is my youthful naivete, or maybe that is my pessimism that Donald Trump has bestowed upon this country. But he's never risen to the level of the office when we have this moment. He's never been there when the country needed him to bridge a gap or divide. I recall during the Mother Emanuel shooting when Barack Obama sang "Amazing Grace," how the country was just, for even just the pendency of that song, was able to just talk about that issue of race and come together in a tone and tenor that hadn't been done before. I remember George W. Bush after 9/11. I mean, those type of tragic events, he was there. I mean, you remember the ball game, those type of things. Donald Trump doesn't have that capability.
He tried at the Charlie Kirk Memorial when he hugged his wife.
Listen,
and he made some
respectfully, though,
He
respectfully,
tried. He tried.
Do you
but I will
remember
tell
the
you
Charlie
this.
Kirk
But I
memorial?
will
He
tell
said
you
he
this.
wasn't.
I
He
will
said
tell you
he
this.
disagreed with forgiving.
Yes.
I will tell you
Your
this.
enemies.
The bar for Donald Trump is in hell, right? That's where our expectations are for him. And for somebody to simply say that the president of the United States, when somebody dies in the fashion that they did, should just be quiet, we need to all look at ourselves and say that is the standard that we hold for the president of the United States? That this man that is 80 years old is incapable of actually having empathy? This man who's 80 years old is incapable of being an example for our children, regardless of Democrat or Republican? And the bigger condemnation I have is for those individuals who call themselves evangelical Christians who surround the president of the United States, but then look at this type of nonsense and turn a blind eye to it. He has a prayer council. They lay hands on him with what? Gloves? Mittens? I mean, that ain't getting through. I mean, who are they praying to? And so I have a great deal of disdain for, and listen, there are people who will say, I love Donald Trump's policies, I hate the man that he is. That is just a very, very weird paradigm that I'm not sure I could find myself in.
I've two issues with the statement today, right? Certainly silence would have been vastly preferable to this. But number one is just the sheer and utter soullessness of the statement. How long was it between the actual murder and the statement? 7 hours? 6 hours? I mean, not even a moment of breath and grace. But number two, as Anna referred to, the statement spreads misinformation. It suggests that the cause of the murder was something about politics or Rob Reiner's view of Donald Trump. That is dangerous. We see how quickly the tiniest little flicker can cause conspiracy theories and inaccurate information to take off. It's irresponsible of him to do that. And I'm actually surprised. It could have been an opportunity for Donald Trump to say, look what narcotics do to families. This is one of his number one issues. It's why he's doing what he's doing with Venezuelan boats, right? And he could have said, you see what these drugs do to these families? It's horrible. My blessings, my prayers are with them. Yes.
Definitely a missed opportunity on the level and I didn't think about your level, but on the level of what Anna is saying, he could have risen to the occasion and just said, putting all the politics aside, this was an absolute American tragedy. I have sons. It's unimaginimaginable, and let's all say a prayer and hug each other, hold each other's hands at the prayer
And
council.
think of this family today. Think about a daughter who walked into that house
You can't.
and found her parents.
And he's got another son as well.
I just,
saw his-
given what we just lived through with Charlie, I mean, every conservative that I know is still very much processing this. And
I'm going to stop you there because I want to play some of the reaction to when Charlie Kirk was killed. Here's sort of just a smattering of what was said mostly from Republicans.